So I heard that you have been alone during this lockdown. So how
Yeah,
has it?
good. It's been more than 100 days alone, so that's a bit crazy. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy my own company, so I'm doing okay. Yeah.
So moving on to this single, uh, you have been working on this EP for quite some time.
Well,
So
this is not a part of the EP. This is
it's
just
not
a single.
okay. So can you tell me about this Edge? What it is and how it came into
So
what was the
I've been writing music for many years now, and I'm working on my EP in the UK, which is like a separate thing, as well as performing original songs from that EP live in the UK. But this is actually my first ever video single of my own independent music. So I'm like really excited about it. I didn't plan it to be that way, but because we're all in lockdown and we're stuck in like these situations that I have no plan. I don't think you do. I don't think anybody does. So it kind of forced me out of my comfort zone and it like made me really think and create in a very different way. So Edge really came from an internal feeling that I was feeling. How do I look at myself? How do I love myself? What is my idea of love with others? Where have I learned the most? And I realized, I think most people would relate to the fact that it's not the happiest of moments and the easy days or the sunny days that teach us important things about ourselves. It's always the edge where you're going to lose something or you are afraid of something or it makes your emotions uncomfortable where you learn something. So that's the edge. And the song is about that kind of a love for myself and what I really want, because it's about saying it's not to be scared of the destruction within yourself, because only when you destruct something can you build something new.
okay. So in your case, what would you say were some of the facets of yourself that you discovered while you were on that edge?
So many things. There's been many versions of these edges in my life, from a very young age, actually. And I think I had more awareness when I was younger about what was what, because I think we have more honesty when we're younger and we have more clarity. And you haven't come into the world's opinions yet, because then when you grow up and you come into the world yourself, it's like non-stop radio of people's opinions. And in that way, the lockdown's been great for me because it's just turned down. And for me, the edge has always been very silent. I'm not one that likes to talk about incidents or things that happen easily. I've, in fact, only recently started talking even to my friends about things from my past or things that haven't been great because of therapy. So I've had that edge many times in myself. And I know that I have been and I've had to break myself down in order to build. And it's about not feeling afraid of that.
Okay. So in the press release, edge is described as something that is about facing your imperfections and accepting them. So what would you say were imperfections that you saw in yourself, and how did you embrace them?
I think we have, like, there is beauty in imperfections. It's like a Japanese art where I forget what it's called, where if a pot breaks, they actually highlight it with gold because the cracks are beautiful. And I like that concept so much. In people I meet as well, I love the people who own their imperfections instead of saying, "Illa, I don't have anything imperfect." I'm like, okay, bye, not interested. But I like imperfections because they are human and they teach us so much about ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, I have like a whole telephone directory of imperfections. But I would say that the one thing that I overcame is is accepting really that this is how I am. And I think for many years I was trying to like be what other people wanted, or Ama Shruti இப்படி பேசுவாங்க Shruti அப்படி இருக்காங்க, and I was kind of playing into other people's screenplay that they had written for me. So I think with age and with time I was like, one second, who am I? So actually owning my imperfections has been my strength. Yeah.
Is there any particular moment that made you realize this?
Any particular moment that made me realize what?
Realize
Huh?
the fact that you have to embrace your imperfections.
I think it was after being in the public eye for so long and trying to be something that I wasn't, and trying to be a kind of girl that wasn't natural to me. See, நம்ம screenல play பண்ற characters வந்து அது வேற, that's a different vibe. Sometimes I think people get the two mixed up. Also, people probably have certain expectations of me from my family or my surname or what, but I can only be me. And I think for many years, um, ullukulla there was this kind of feeling of defiance, like why can't I just be understood? But it's not other people's job to understand you. The only job you have is to be yourself, and then
Okay.
you really value the people who love you.
Okay. So when it comes to the music part of the song, what was your approach to it?
So basically, I write music first on piano mostly. But this was a poem that I'd written inspired by something going on in my life, where I was really questioning my ability to, how do I love myself? How do I love others? What am I looking for in this feeling of overall love? And I wrote it out as a poem. And then maybe 2 weeks later, I wrote a piano line and I tried to to mesh them together, and they were really made for each other. Usually I write the music first and then I kind of have an idea, but this time it was actually, of course, it wasn't the same as the poem. I maybe only took 4 lines from it. But yeah, this time it kind of went cross border.
And then what kind of genre would you say this song is? And
I think it would be alternative pop, would be the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Okay. And is the entire instrumentation done by you, or did you
Yes.
collaborate?
So I wrote it on the piano. I worked on the piano line myself, wrote the whole song, the structure of it. And then I worked with a musician friend of mine called Karan Parekh, who's a guitar player and a producer. And he put down his guitar parts as well. And we kind of and he really did the whole mixing of it because he's technologically blessed and I am not. So I just recorded my bits and put the whole song structure together, and then he kind of produced the layers of guitar on it.
So this was all during this lockdown.
Yeah, in 1 week.
Oh, great. So how was this experience of virtual collaboration?
Oh, I've been doing only that the whole lockdown. Like I'm working with my producer in England. I'm doing other stuff. It's all virtual. It's okay. I mean, இப்போ இந்த நிலைமையில இப்படிதான் பண்ணணும். So it's okay.
Okay. But you've also shot the video as well, right? Yourself.
Yeah, that was really, really hard. Like I can't even explain. I've been on a movie set like pretty much my whole adult life, I feel like. But I had 2 cameras set up. I had created a black box. I had different lighting. And so I put the lights, then I'll check the frame, and then I was pouring with sweat, and then I was like touching my face because I don't want to be wet and sweaty in my own music video. And then I was triggering the music with my toes from my laptop, and then putting on the camera, and then playing. It was crazy.
Okay. So was it all trial and error, or did you have
I'm
some?
pretty good at shooting myself, I think, because I am my favorite subject. But I mean, all the photo shoots I've done in lockdown, I've really enjoyed, but it's different to just pose. But it's the song means so much to me. So I wanted to perform it well. But then I was also doing all these technical things while trying to perform it well. But finally, it came out the way it was supposed to, and I'm really happy with it.
Okay. So one thing that you missed from the live shoots?
People.
Okay.
Definitely the energy of that front row and people. It's like an instant thermometer, no? So I miss that.
And one thing that you think is advantages when it comes to virtual shoots?
I'm a really sensitive person, like so hypersensitive. The good thing about being away from people for 100 days is I don't get other people's bad energy. So it's just my energy. Yeah.
So do you get that a lot? The bad energy?
You can't. Because I'm hypersensitive. If
Mm,
somebody is even slightly off, I can sense it. I'm not saying bad energy, like not towards me,
mm, mm.
but I can sense இவங்க இன்னைக்கு அவங்க mood சரியில்லை. They are actually upset, but they're pretending to be happy. அது எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சிடும். So
Okay.
now I don't have any of that. So it's like, yeah.
Okay. So coming to music, what would you say are your musical influences?
Growing up, definitely the music at home. So
Mm,
film music has been a big influence because my dad would be like, come, let's watch Spartacus or let's watch this movie, and then he'd be like, listen to the score, listen to how they're using it, you know. And when I was that young to be like, oh wow, music makes you feel more. And to lots of English music. My mum introduced me to a lot of Hindustani classical and old Hindi music. Of course, there was dad's film songs and Tamil songs throughout.
mm.
Um, but my taste really developed when I was about 13, 14. I started listening to a lot of rock and roll and metal. Heavy
Okay.
metal was like, it's still my favorite genre of music. I don't perform it, but that's like the music that really makes me excited. I listen to all kinds of artists. I think the rule I have now is listen to everything. And I don't judge it. I just like love just listening to music and getting new music from people and finding new music. But I think for me, female singer-songwriters have been my biggest influence.
Okay. Can you name some?
Yeah, Tori Amos, Fiona Apple, Alanis Morissette. And I also love Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails and his own stuff. And I also love vocalists like Kurt Cobain, Chris Cornell. I have a lot of male vocalist heroes because I feel like I just love that energy that they brought.
Mhm. Okay. So what kind of music did your dad introduce you to? He's also a music. Uh,
Yeah,
he's
film music, um, the Beatles. He loved the Beatles. I think he still does. The Beatles, which I, absolutely love, and Deep Purple,
okay.
and he was obsessed with this musical called Jesus Christ Superstar. And it's really good musically, but it's a bit cheesy to sing now, but we still sing it. Yeah.
So is there any particular music that you bond over, the two of you?
Musicals, probably musicals and film scores. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And coming to film music, what would you say are your five favorite albums?
I would say Dil Se by A.R. Rahman is probably one of my all-time favorite albums.
Okay. What was it that? What is it that you like about it? Can you
So
elaborate
I
it?
grew up with the blessings and like there's like if you're talking like way back, it was Ilaiyaraaja sir, and like I'm one of the blessed people who started my career with him.
Mm.
He's like a master of music in a way that is unfathomable. Almost sometimes I couldn't understand how amazing it was, and it was so simple as well. Like the way he presented it to you. So him first and foremost. But as I grew and I started like developing my own taste, like which was more Western influenced, I think Rahman sir really hit that point for me, which I could relate to. And I remember listening to Rangila and being like, wow. But that was like a popular album. But Dil Se was like so passionate and so it had the sound of world music, which I love. Yeah.
Okay. So how was it when you sang for him? How was that experience?
Oh my God. He actually called me first to sing Semmori, and I was like really nervous. And he gave me like a really high note, and I was like, okay, this is like really scary. But he's such a nice person, and he puts everyone at ease, but you're not really at ease because you just don't want to disappoint. And then after that, I did MTV Unplugged with him, where he was kind enough to call me. I really consider it a blessing in my life that I got to sing with him because I really looked up to him my whole growing up years, especially as a musician. So when I'm around him, I just really feel very, very lucky. Yeah.
Okay. So he recently spoke about how in Bollywood there is a gang that has been spreading the wrong stuff about him. So have you had any experiences? Is it something that happens?
Rahmat sir is like literally one of the most celebrated Indians. You go outside the country, you go to London, for example, my friends, they'll be like, oh, I know A.R. Rahman. Like they can't say his name properly, but they know who he is, you know. He's really a pride of our country. But within a வெளியூர் போகும்போது, they don't look at it as north, south, middle in India. They don't know that difference. We are all colorful, loud, interesting looking Indians to them, right? It's only within India that we have these divisions. I don't know categorically what Rahman sir is talking about, but I have started becoming vocal about the fact that I had, for example, now ரெண்டு தெலுங்கு படம் ஒரு தமிழ் படம் பண்றதுக்கு it will take 1 year 6 months, so I might not do a Hindi film then. So they ask me questions like, why aren't you acting anymore? And I'm like, do you think that if we work only in Hindi we are actors, or who decided this is the most important industry? You know, so I say that because I'm very proud of the fact that I was born in Chennai, that, you know, I'm a Tamil speaking girl. Like, it's a part of my identity, and I love that I could come to Hyderabad and join a new industry. And I always looked at Hindi the same way because my mom is from, you know, Mumbai. So I never saw this difference, but over time I do see that difference, whether like South K films, and I'm like, this was such a small country in the big world map, but a beautiful country. And although it says unity within diversity, all you see as you go on is just diversity without acknowledging even. I mean, so many times I'll be like, what? They'll be like, oh, so do you like idli, dosa, sambar? I'm like, of course I like idli, dosa, sambar. But that can't be the criterion of how you define people, you know? And I think that there are educated, well-aware people, my friends, people in the business in Bombay who don't think like that. But I would say the majority of questions I receive and the majority of things I still see are kind of internally racist, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So coming to this particular song, how nervous are you about, because this is going to be a first independent song that you are going to showcase to your fans, right? So how nervous are you, or are you?
I'm very nervous actually, because it means a lot to me. I don't think, I mean, I think people may have preferred for me to do a Hindi or a Tamil or a Telugu single, but I write in English because I grew up listening to that. And it's not that I'm not rooted in my culture, but this is my way of most honest expression. So it's a piece of me, really. It's a piece of myself that I'm giving with all of my heart. So I'm nervous. But having said that, I'm not nervous because this is me, you know. Yeah.
At what point did you realize that you wanted to be a musician?
I think very early on in life. I think I didn't know I wanted to be a musician then, but I knew I liked the feeling. Is my dad had a Singapore show, like this little tour that he was doing, not little, it was a big tour, and he said, you are going to sing a song, and I was like, okay, and I saw all these rehearsals happening, and they were doing all the songs from Abudva Sagodra. I was like, oh, it's like a school trip, you know. And I had to sing Amma Vumniye, and I rehearsed it and everything. But that was my first experience of being in front of like 80,000 people, and I had to sing. There's that moment where I received applause after I sang, where I thought, I love this feeling of connection that I had made with all of these strangers, and I was so young, and I felt a kind of love that felt very, very powerful. And
Okay.
then as I grew, it wasn't about applause. It was about recreating that feeling of connecting again and again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is music something about feeling that connectedness for you?
So is acting, but I think with music, for me, what happens is it's more visceral because people can keep playing a song again and again through the day. People can see you singing live, you know. So I think that music has more accessibility than cinema sometimes. So the connection can be made there. And the beauty is any song, like even your favorite song, the way you interpret it and what it means to you may not even have been the way they meant to write it. But that's the beauty of music, allowing people to connect to your emotion with their experience.
So, coming to this particular thing about your interpretation of a song, recently your Tenpandi Mele song, there were
Yeah.
many people who were actually trolling you for
Yeah, but there
express.
were many people who loved it as well, which is what I focus on.
So, okay. So, how did you take those things actually?
I mean, if you don't like it, like, that's fine. That's an opinion. But that's not going to deter me from, it's not disrespectful. It's my version of a song that I love. And it was an emotion that felt different to me. And there were plenty of people who absolutely loved it. And there are people who don't. But if you live your life for the people, if you live your life, whether it's your art or what you're seeing, I mean, you don't want to go out offending people, but if you live your life based on அவங்க என்ன நினைக்க போறாங்க, what do they feel, then is it really a life worth enjoying? Yeah.
Okay. So, coming to films,
Yes.
what's happening with Labam? I
Yes.
heard some of the cast have started dubbing. So, when are you going to dub for it?
I don't know yet because I'm in another city. Whenever they ask me to,
And any other films that you're doing right now?
I'm
I
doing
mean,
Crack in Telugu,
Hmm.
which is me reuniting with my director of Balupu and Ravi Teja, and I'm really excited about my character in that as well.
no, is there any facet of filmmaking that you think is going to change in a drastic way following the pandemic?
I think that people have probably come up with ways to be more inventive and time efficient.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And coming to music, live performances are going to be a little different these days, right? So, what would you say is the way forward for musicians?
Well, when the pandemic ends, hopefully soon, we will slowly get back to it. Right now, it's not an option. I heard people were telling me about drive-through concerts, which I thought was really cool that they're starting to do. So it's kind of like drive-in theater, but people go in their cars and you can watch people perform, which I thought was a super cool idea. Um, but this morning I was reading up on the plague of 1665 and the pandemic of the influenza pandemic of 1920s. And we are so lucky to have technology and communication, and not just in the medical field of where we can see, avoid doing this and this, and keep a check on each other and communicate. But for art, it's so amazing to share art through technology. So I think that for now, I'm learning to appreciate this more, and I'm learning to be more inventive.
Okay. So, finally, Shruti, who would be your 5 desert island musicians?
Oh my God. Uh, I think Bach for sure, and then
Can you elaborate on why?
like Johann Sebastian Bach is only like the greatest classical composer of all time. I don't know what kind of a person he'd be, but I'd like him there. Um, definitely Bach. Definitely. And do they have to be dead or alive?
Pardon?
Do they have to be dead or alive?
No, either way.
Both.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just mix up the spirit world and the living world. Okay, I love that. So Bach, and then definitely Trent Reznor and Tori Amos, and Kurt Cobain,
Okay.
and I would probably then take any wonderful Tamil folk musician who can play the tabla or the tappu, because I need rhythm in my life.
Okay. So, what's your special love for this particular instrument?
So I think that, so you have like the Punjabi rhythm section is so strong. Or you have like in Kerala, you have the chenda. But just the way the stick is, it kind of softens the sound, or the tabla still softens. Whereas when you see the mridangam and the tabla, there's like a beautiful brutality to the sound. It's like heavy metal. It's like so sharp but so clean. So when you go to like a Carnatic kacheri, someone's playing the mridangam, it's with really intricate, soft, beautiful vocals, but the rhythm section is just, I think, so strong and powerful, you know, and it's in your face, but it's very solid. So I love that musically.
Uh-huh. Do you
I
have
feel
any?
satisfied. I'm like, okay, that's a full beat. Yeah.
Do you have any plans of doing folk music?
I don't know if I'd be good at it. I mean, I started learning the. I'm like, it's really hard, but I'm still going to be at it. I think it's more about incorporating the rhythm in my music because I love, you know, heartland Tamil rhythm. There's
Oh.
something really powerful about it.
So, is there any chance that fans can see you perform Edge live, at least online?
Yeah, maybe on my Instagram, maybe on my YouTube. Yeah, I'll see, definitely.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Shruti. Nice
Thank
talking.
you, thanks. It was a lovely chat. Thank you so much.
But to the song. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.